But joining us in studio now, our next guests are Joyce Cavanaugh, June Cavanaugh and Paula Kavanagh, and the family know very much so what Fiona Doyle is going through, and maybe that's where I'll start, Joyce, because people will know your names from the books and from the awards, first of all, for the bravery that the three of you have been given, and from the television documentary in the 90s on RTE, but just tell us you and your sister's story.
Well, we grew up in Ballyferm, a large family of 10. We would have been considered well off because we had our own grocery shop, but it was a community of a lot of deprivation and poverty. My father sexually abused all of us and an older sister as well. And then that went on for our whole lives. It didn't stop with me until I was 17, and the girls were 16 and 17 when it stopped for them as well.
Watching Fiona Doyle outside court and listening to that statement, and what an eloquent woman, the way she spoke, but what heartbreaking things she said, what did you guys feel listening to her?
Like, it's just disgraceful that she's gone so far. You know, one thing you have to say, like, she's so brave, so brave. It was really very courageous thing to do. It did bring back all the memories of when we went to our own court case, and, you know, the lack of understanding of what's going on in the courtroom and the exclusion from the system, because it becomes a case from the state, so you've very little to do with it. But the devastation, I suppose, is what hit, you know, standing on the steps crying, because, you know, the disbelief that this could happen. Somebody goes into court, pleads guilty, is found guilty, and then he walks out of court. And, you know, I know there was consideration for his age, which I think is ridiculous, and consideration for his health. There's no consideration for her health and her age, because regardless of how she looks, and she looked fantastic, she's still suffering greatly.
Can I ask you just, and Justice Paul Carney, I mean, in giving his verdict, talked about the Court of Criminal Appeal, and there's a lot more of the legal process to go. This story doesn't end there, so I just want to park that there for a second, that this is still in the legal realm. But from any of the three of you, from June or Paula as well, the bravery, I was arguing yesterday that you can't take away from Fiona Doyle what she did in actually standing up and in going public, but what does it take to do that, to stand up to that person, first of all, that you had feared for so long?
It's huge, and I think the more people that do it, the better things are going to be. It's encouraging for other people to come forward once they witness other people having the courage to do it. It is huge, and in our case we were actually told there was a chance my father would have walked, and I can only imagine how she feels, because we were outraged at the prospects of that. And because abuse generally takes so long to be uncovered in a family situation, it's very likely that most abusers are going to be aged. You know, they are going to be old, they're most likely going to be ill, but we shouldn't be sending out a message that means if you reach a certain age you've somehow escaped.
Okay, and just on the legal system, because you mentioned court, and that's one thing. I've only been in court for work, but it is one thing when you're at a more serious, like for example a murder case, the victim is almost missing because it is state against accused, and that's the way the law works, and it's the way it needs to work. But the whole court system is so foreign, isn't it?
And it doesn't need to work that way. People actually need to be included. It's their lives. It's actually shocking that they're excluded.
Did you find, though, from Gardaí or from the court service liaison, that was understanding?
What do you mean?
Like, did you find people that were good at their jobs and were good at interpreting for you what was happening?
No, we didn't have any of that. When we went through the court case, nobody told us anything, and we didn't even get the opportunity to see my father's statements that he had made in response to our statements until the morning of the final court case. And we were devastated when we seen that, and nobody even thought that we'd want to see it. Everybody, it kind of felt at the time that people were trying to protect us.
Yes.
But by trying to protect us, they actually excluded us,
because
and they didn't help us at all in doing that.
Yeah. Can I ask you, a lot of, and just again, any three of you, June, Joyce or Paula, a lot has been made of people seeing Fiona Doyle and then saying, why would I go through that? Because look at what has happened to her. And I can't stress enough that this is not over for her. But nonetheless, the Dublin Rape Crisis Centre reporting fourfold increase in its calls yesterday. And for other victims out there, they're listening to this. They might be in a car on their own, they might be in a car with someone else, they might be in a kitchen with other people, and those other people won't know what they went through.
Well,
and what would you say to them?
She may not have got the outcome that she would have liked, and as you said, it isn't over yet. But even going through this whole process, that's the beginning to taking back your power and to being vindicated by somebody actually believing what had happened to you. And although the outcome, as I said, wasn't a desired outcome, she's made a huge difference to her own and other people's lives just by going this far.
And also, sorry, you know the way people were saying she's extremely courageous for waiving her anonymity and actually naming herself, stand up on this.
Yes.
If it was any other crime, nobody would see that as a courageous act. It is a crime. She was a victim. So why shouldn't she stand there and give her name? It's not her shame. It's not her guilt. So for other people who are thinking about going through the process, it's not their shame. And what she did by doing what she did was put the blame right where it belonged, which was with her father. And everybody knows now. So regardless if he never served a day, she has put the blame where it belongs. So her standing up and saying who she is and saying what happened, there's no shame in that.
When was the court case with yourselves?
1990.
Well, how long did it go on?
The court case?
Yeah, was it like a week or was it a long drawn out thing?
No, it was a couple of hours.
Couple of hours,
morning,
so it was a morning.
Maybe 10 till 1.
I mentioned the book Click Click and the RT documentary, and you've done other interviews as well. I'm just talking, so we're 2 decades on, and I'm just wondering about healing and getting, you described yourselves, come in here Jolly, you described yourselves the Kavanagh sisters, healing and getting on with your life and repairing. How do you go along that together, it looks like?
Yeah, together or it doesn't really matter what way you do it. It's a long process. There's no quick fix. And we're lucky that we have each other, but other people may not. But as long as you have any form of support, you'll get there, but you just have to keep working at it, and it's not easy.
And even with support, it is a journey you go on your own. Because although we were all abused by the same person, we all had very different experiences of that abuse, and we all developed very different behaviour patterns of survival. And it's only when you become an adult, the difference is you have to look back and find out where your behaviour started, because what served you to make you survive as a child no longer serves you as an adult, and it's normally the very thing, and that behaviour pattern is normally the very thing that holds you back as an adult and stops you moving forward.
Did you claim your lives back? They're your lives now, no one else's?
Absolutely. God help us.
We did, but it's a never-ending journey. You know, there's days when we're the way we are now, and there's days when we're floored. It never goes away. It just does for us, like it's become more manageable.
I think if you've been abused, it goes to the core of you, and ultimately I don't think you're never going to eradicate that, because it's now shaped who you are. But you certainly get to the point where you don't live out with the victim role anymore, and the abuse doesn't define you any longer, and that's what you're aiming for. And to be as happy as you can be, the best life you can have, and it is possible.
Can I just ask you, just finally, I mean, for people listening to this, be they man or woman, young or old, who the words that you're saying are going to their core because something happened to them but they haven't taken a step yet, what's the first thing they can do?
Speak up. Tell somebody. Because the only way abuse survives is by people keeping the abuser's secret, because it's not your secret, it's their secret. And the only way you'll ever eradicate it is people get comfortable talking about it and victims speak up. And that is the only way you'll ever get rid of it. Start talking about it and tell anybody. It doesn't matter who you tell, because it's about you getting it off your chest.
All right, look, all three of you, thank you. Sorry, Joyce,
Can
you
I
wanted
just
to say
one
something?
thing?
Yeah,
I just feel like there's something really missing here with judges. I think they need to be educated, and I would like to challenge any judge to sit in a room with me and my sisters to educate them on the impacts of sexual abuse before they can.
And sorry, that one thing that was said last night in the primetime programme about proportionality when it comes to sentencing, if people understood the full impact of abuse, that proportionality would drastically change overnight.